Hi everyone, I'm Sin from ArtScience Museum. Our program for ArtScience Late at Home in August featured dance artist Adele Goh in a solo dance work that was live streamed in tandem with a Q&A. We were experiencing technical issues during the live broadcast and have edited the recorded Q&A segment to make the viewing experience a little more user-friendly. For those of you who had joined us on the evening, thank you so much for bearing with us during the technical difficulties. Please click into the link listed in the description of this video for the full performance work, and we hope you enjoy this recording of ArtScience Late at Home Q&A with Adele Goh. Thank you for joining us at ArtScience Late at Home this evening. This is the museum's performance strand, and it forms part of ArtScience at Home, which is the broader suite of programming that has found a new home on our online platforms over the last few months. This has marked a new expression for how we engage and continue to connect with our audiences and the broader community during this period. It is also a significant part of our work in which we continue to nurture new forms of invention in different kinds of space. Our ArtScience Late at Home performance series is really a chord progression from the monthly on-site performances that we have been presenting in our galleries since 2014. In this series of performances developed for the online platform, we have been inviting artists to respond to the context of the pandemic with short performance pieces that are filmed in the safety of their homes. They are very much making use of and improvising with what is immediately available in their environments to create these performative encounters to share with you. Across the last few months at ArtScience Late at Home, we have listened in as Cyril Wong delivered a performance of sung and spoken words in the intimacy of his bedroom, accompanied only by wind chimes, joined Tim Decotter in contemplating the new normal as we sat with his new single and thought video created in lockdown, and tuned out with Kin Leon's ambient set that he played from his living room to embrace a moment of quietude and introspection. And for the September iteration of ArtScience Late at Home, we're delighted to be presenting dance artist and performance maker Adele Goh for a solo performance piece, which you'll be seeing very shortly. We are also joined by Adele this evening in a chat that's taking place right after the performance to discuss how dance is healing and connecting in the time of COVID-19, and also find out how her practice has been evolving. We're live streaming on ArtScience Museum's YouTube channel as well as Facebook account, and welcome you to share questions for Adele for the post-show conversation. We would also love to hear your thoughts and comments throughout the Q&A this evening, so please do share them with us in the chat boxes below. And now it's my pleasure welcoming Adele to introduce her performance work.
Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in from wherever you are. So this solo that you're about to watch is something that I have been experimenting with and working on for the past few weeks in my home. This performance explores ideas about hope, life, and breath. I think it's safe to say that as a humankind, we're going through a universal crisis at this moment. And in this little performance, I hope to bring to life through dance a lost feeling or a new longing that we might be experiencing in a time like this. So hope you enjoy it.
Please enjoy ArtScience Late at Home with Adele Goh. So welcome back, Adele. I wonder if we could first delve into your process of conceptualizing and developing this particular performance work. You spoke about this piece having a starting point in your experience of the current moment and how you have been trying to process the COVID grief. How did you draw on this to develop the concept and the movement material for this work? And under circuit breaker conditions, how have you managed to prepare and present the performance?
Yeah, so I think the starting point for this work was really just a month ago when you phoned me up and asked me if I would want to create a work from my home in response to the isolation And it was a really nice surprise to be able to receive that phone call. And I think what was so nice as well was the spirit of the way you posed this question to me. And it felt that it was very nice that you wanted to give me the space to be able to just bring something quite personal and experimental into this performance piece. So it was only a month ago that this happened. And so I think in that moment where you asked me to think about responding to the pandemic, I started to look at some of the emotions and feelings that I've been going through, some of the things that I've been returning to as well during this time, like playing the piano, listening a lot to piano compositions, which was also something that I was doing because I was working on another piece remotely in a collaboration with Korean artist Kwon Hyun for the M1 Contemporary Dance Festival. So I started to reflect a lot on time, our sense of time during the pandemic, and the sense of time being kind of endless, kind of feeling like we're waiting a lot, and we don't know when the next step is, where this would end. And I was also thinking a lot about my interactions with the piano, and it was something that I didn't realize until I started thinking about it. I was, playing it quite regularly, and I saw it as this sort of therapeutic space, a meditative space to kind of cope with some of the emotional and mental challenges during this time. So then I think that really sparked my desire to want to create a piece that could bring this kind of space as well through dance. Yeah, and I think so I've been working concurrently as well on a dance film, and it happens to deal with issues of mental health, grief, suicide, and depression. And so I thought that it was timely to sort of explore a counterpoint to that film. Yeah.
I mean, how did you feel about the experience of working on this particular work for ArtScience Late at Home? We've heard that there's been quite a few challenges. Would you like to maybe share them with us?
Yeah, so I'm really not a techie person. And so I think initially I remember very clearly from our first conversation, I really wanted to present something that was live, that I could improvise, because I think what I was missing so much during this period was the sense of liveness and being able to connect through performance with people in real time. So I've been so I was really intent on doing something that was improvised, but then as I thought about and I conceived the piece and I thought about how this would be happening at night and I would be doing it in the pool, there were so many restrictions with the lighting and with exporting, taking ages to export files in my MacBook, and just spending half the time really waiting on technology to work for me. So it's been really, I think it's been really interesting, and I think it really, I think I was also, I guess, surprised as well about, as frustrating as some of those things were. I think I was also surprised about what what film and video could capture as well of the body and of movement that I guess you wouldn't otherwise be able to in person. And I think it was really nice to kind of, I think with this work as well, I wanted to bring in the sounds from the environment and the background, and to sort of layer it with Akira's piano compositions. And I think that's something that, that was quite special about trying to create this performance. And trying to capture that sound and to make it almost immersive, almost kind of organic for people, watching from the other side.
When you introduced the piece earlier at the start of the program, you spoke about it being about life and breath and that sense of time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how, now that you finished the piece, did you feel that you are closer to the place you wanted to access when you first set out to make it?
Sorry, Sin, could you repeat that last part?
Sorry.
I had troubles hearing you.
Right. So I was wondering, because at the start of the program, you were mentioning that this piece is about life and breath and a sense of time. So now that you've completed the piece, did you feel that you're closer to the place that you wanted to access when you first set out to make the performance?
Yeah, I think it's been such a special experience to be able to use the pool as my practice and performance space. And I think it's really changed the way that it really gives something quite different to movement and to my body as well. And in terms of going closer to where I don't know where the end point of this work is, but I do see that this kind of little experiment has really helped me to, it's the first time I'm dancing in water. And actually, I mean, I live at home with a swimming pool, but I actually maybe go into my swimming pool about 5 times a year. I rarely use the swimming pool at all. And I think it's really, been quite a special and reflective experience. And I think something that, that was subtly there in that piece as well, in part of the research for this work, was thinking a lot about the idea of birth and the development of life. So I've been watching some videos of the development of fetuses in mothers' wombs, and thinking about that first breath as you emerge from the womb into this world. And I think it was kind of special to be able to go through that process mentally, and even if not all of it was sort of put into the piece literally. It was, I think, hopefully that still came across in some of the movements and some of the things that I was doing. Yeah,
I mean, dance has been such a remedy in these times, and your piece really reminded me of that, in the way how dance has been lifting our spirits and connecting us with every step. And I think I'd love to share something that you brought up in one of your previous interviews as well. In the interview, you mentioned that contemporary dance speaks about life and all its complexities and nuances, our innermost thoughts, invisible shapes and patterns, things that our practical lives can't always quantify, intellectualize, or make sense of. And contemporary dance is an attempt to hold on to these elusive moments, and its value lies in those attempts as well as what is presented to the audience. And I thought that was really beautiful and just wanted to share with everyone who's listening to us. So Adele, I mean, I'm just wondering, how have your days been like during this strange period? Because the piece really developed out of the context of the circuit breaker as well. How has COVID-19 affected you personally as a professional performing artist?
Yeah, yeah, I think there's still lots of unknowns swirling around in my mind, but I think it's been really nice to see the arts community sort of, still coming together online in many different ways, connecting with one another, speaking very openly about how the pandemic has affected performance making and art making. And I think, yeah, there's this sense that, well, even though we're not together in person, that we're still trying to, hold on to one another in the community. And I feel that sense of care. And I think that really has been very uplifting and inspiring for me. And in terms of training and practices, I've it's been hard to keep up with it. Yeah, to be honest. I think at the initial phase of the COVID period, there was a lot of excitement about, people being all over the world being quite generous with opening their classes and opening their shows, digitalizing their shows to the rest of the world. And so I was part of that as well. I was taking a lot of classes, especially Gaga classes, which is something that I connect to a lot in my work. So Gaga comes from it's a movement language that was developed by Ohad Narin, and he has a company in Batsheva, in Israel, in Batsheva Dance Company. So the class is kind of improvisation based, and it's something that I've been practicing even during my time in school, and something that I've been doing as well while working in the company Frontier Dance Land some years back. So there's a lot of excitement about being able to come together with the global dance community to do class with like 500 people at the same time in different time zones. But I think, after a while, the Zoom fatigue sets in, and like the internet space becomes quite overwhelming, especially for me. So I think it's still a lot of kind of self-questioning during this time about how much I want to just wait for this to be over, and how much I want to kind of shift my ideas about what my practice should be, the format that I want to present work in. Yeah, but this has been like what this little performance that I've been doing, that I've done, has really, I think really encouraged me to maybe, continue to expand what I do.
We've got a related question from Johan Jo, who's listening in. So the question is that he's noticed that during this COVID period, artists are required to handle their own transmission of their art. And this is especially so for performance pieces, where it's not captured by a crew, nor presented on a stage to a visiting audience during this time. So he's asking for you, how has this new responsibility factored in your process of performance making? And there's also a question for us, for ArtScience Museum, whether we have plans to support artists in this unique situation. So maybe I can answer the question first and come to you, Adele. Yuan, precisely this series, Art Science Late at Home, precisely presents, it's an opportunity for us to present works by artists, and it's very flexible, it's very loose, and it really starts with conversations with artists in terms of what are the performances that they are making at this time. And it's really a process of developing the work and then presenting it through online programming with our audiences. And Adele's work, which you've just seen, is really part of this body of work that we are trying to build for the programming work that we're doing now. So Adele, I mean, how would you respond to this? How has this kind of new responsibility of handling, the transmission of your own art factor in your practice now?
Well, I think, I think the first thing I have to say is that throughout this process that that's in you and, ArtScience Museum, you've been really generous and supportive of what I've been doing. And well, we've never met in person, but you've been sending me lots of tech support. They've even tried to, bring me like massive lights, GoPros, do lots of help me with lots of the post-production and editing and stuff. So I think I feel very grateful that you've kind of offered this kind of support because it can be rather lonely and kind of overwhelming to take on so many different responsibilities, which, usually in a typical performance, you would have people who would fill these roles for you, who are part of the team and part of, that process of bringing their part to the work. So yeah, I do feel that it is not an easy thing to be the choreographer, the performer, the tech crew, the video editor, the filmmaker, all at the same time. It can feel quite crazy, but I think at the same time it's quite exciting to have this sort of complete responsibility over your work and over what you want to present. And I think it's also opened my eyes. I think like being put in this situation has really opened my eyes and forced me to sort of understand how film, how video, how this thing that mediates between us and the audience affects performance to be that eye, for myself, to be my own dramaturg, to to switch between the different selves and the different roles. And yeah, so I think it's been positive as well. Yeah.
It's a really useful perspective. Like throw us a curve and we will improvise. And I mean, while it's been very challenging adapting to this new atmosphere of limitations, not having the sense of community and shared experience that has defined dance and live performances, and experiencing the immediacy of bodies moving in real space. And it's really tested, us people and institutions at every level of the industry to our limits. But on the opposite side of the coin, it's also forcing us to innovate and experiment and respond to the crisis with radical new ideas. And we're seeing so many exciting things come out of this creative disruption. So how has this period changed the way you think about performance, Adele? Are you exploring any alternatives for staying connected to your art or your audience?
So one of the first things I started to do during the circuit breaker was to gather a group of friends. So there's just the four of us, and we started this thing which we call spontaneous space jams, and it was really out of a sheer desire to be able to dance with each other in real time, and to improvise, and to kind of understand what it means to be dancing in this shared virtual space together from our own homes, and negotiating this, this space between the domestic space, the physical space, and that virtual space. So I think that was one of the things that has been really, I think, carrying me through, helping me to see that it is very exciting, like that, that the possibility to be able to connect with other bodies is still very much there because of what we have, and especially over the Zoom medium particularly. There's been lots of really really interesting ideas, I think, coming out of the Zoom medium, and I think it's really very kind of inspiring for me, for the arts community. So that's what I would say.
I would also like to talk about your story, Adele, and the beginning is always a nice place to revisit. Did you always want to be a dancer? How did you first come to dance, and at what point did you decide to carve a career out of it?
So I started dancing when I was 6 years old. So I actually started my journey in dance doing classical ballet for almost 15 years. I think it's 14 years. And that's all I did. But I think it was really, those 14, 15 years of my life really, I think I was very blessed because I was, my teacher at that time was Chow Mei Sing, and she was, at that time also a practicing artist and a dancer with Singapore Dance Theatre. And I think through her, I gained that exposure to, the world of theatre and stage and what it could do. And I think that was really, something that really gave me the motivation and the courage to want to do this full time. So I ended up going to London when I was 19, and that's when I first encountered contemporary dance. It was quite a huge shift in my, in my thinking and approach to thinking about movement. And I really struggled in my first 2 years, I think. But I think just something, clicked for me in my third year. I was doing a lot of research. So for my dissertation, I was doing a lot of research on William Forsythe and his improvisation technologies, which I think if you YouTube it, it's still there. And I think that was something that really, I think that was just, I don't know, like one of the things that really started to really open my mind to what contemporary dance as a space could give me as an artist for improvisation, for expansion of movement language, of exploring ideas beyond just repeating the same, the same movements or the same roles. So that's how, I think also I've always been quite a visual person and quite a kinesthetic person, and so I think it was quite natural for me to want to do this.
So you've talked about dancing with different companies. You were with the Singapore Ballet Academy, and then afterwards Moving Visions Dance Company in London, Kibbutz Contemporary Dance Company in Israel. And I think a lot of people really became familiar with the practice from your time with Frontier Dance Learn. So, I mean, talking about how your practice has been evolving, I wonder if you could share with us your experiences of this part of your career trajectory, from London to Israel and then back to Singapore, any memorable kind of behind the scenes anecdotes.
I think I think what being at Rambert in London gave me was a very good technical foundation. I think I was really there to train to be a dancer. I think very specifically, I think a dancer that is well suited to working in a repertoire company, which I think, which I landed up in. And I think, I think being in Israel for me really gave me, I think, a specific sensibility that I feel that I kind of, I don't know, inhabited and kind of took with me, or felt kind of resonated with me a lot. I think there's something about not just the training, but also what I experienced in Israel, the culture and the history, and kind of thinking about the resilience of the people there, their warmth, their energy, their passion. It was something that I think I took with me very much, and I think still resonates with me very deeply. And I think coming back to Singapore and working with Frontier Dance Land, it was I think it was a really nice time because we got to, Frontier had 3 different seasons every year. And in those seasons, we would spend our time working with different choreographers. So we would either do a triple bill or a double bill. So we, most of the time we'll be working with 2 or 3 choreographers, and many of them were not local choreographers as well. And so there was so much, I think, input for me as a dancer. And I think during my time there, I really learned to sort of become, empty in a way, so that you learn to be this vessel that can take on the personalities, the textures, the styles, the movements of choreographers that come to work with us. And so that was, I think that was 2018 I left Frontier, and then since then I have been working as an independent dancer. And I think what I've enjoyed most about coming out of the company is just being able to work in a sort of a more collaborative way, and to be kind of being more intellectually involved in the processes of the work as well. So I think that's been really nice for me in the past 1.5 years.
In the last couple of years as well, you started developing a body of choreographic work. And I'm just wondering, where do you find most of your inspiration for choreography? Is it in this idea of a conversation with your collaborators, the audience?
So I don't think that I know that some artists, they have kind of a very constant way of approaching making work and have quite a constant starting point. But I think for me, it really shifts from work to work, and different things inspire me, and different things move me to want to create dance, because a lot of things move me, but they don't necessarily make me want to make dance. Sometimes I think about illustrations that I would want to draw if I could draw, or I think about writing and things that I would write only for my own eyes. But so different things move me, but they don't necessarily move me to want to dance or to make dance. But I think as I look back at the body of work that I have created, it seems to me that most of the time, the starting point of my work seems to have to do with, I think I usually start with an object or a prop, or or I think with the work that I'm interested in doing right now, it could be the site of the work, and where it's situated in. Yeah, and I think that there's something about, I think for me, an interest in, if it's an object, what the memories are in that object, what are the textures, what's my relationship to it, what's the relationship of my body to it. I think those are the questions that really kind of interest me. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a really, strong feeling about something. Like with this work, it's really, we're just caught up in this, the pandemic, and some things just really stand out to me quite clearly and quickly. So yeah, it's just responding to that.
I love what you shared about, the need to write your own narrative and providing a space where others can do the same through your choreography as well. And it's beautiful because it's a foundation that you create to offer recognition of the people you work with in your choreographic practice. So just a little while ago, you also mentioned that you recently started practicing as an independent artist. That must have been a turning point. So what prompted you to make this decision? Were you looking to make a space for yourself and building your journey in dance?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think that, so I'd spent almost 6 years with Frontier Danceland, and I think at that point I reached a point where maybe, dancing for other people's work was no longer as satisfying as it was 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And I was really, really curious about trying to, find my own practice and my own kind of artistic voice, so to speak. And I think what I was really wanting as well was to be able to do more work that could be meaningful to me, and to work with people in the more collaborative way. And not just people as in dancers or dance makers, but I think across other disciplines as well. Yeah, and I think that's thankfully been my experience. I'm very thankful to be able to have worked with on a number of projects with quite a number of different people that I wouldn't have expected to be working with, or probably wouldn't have had the chance to work with if I was still in the company. Yeah.
So what kind of projects excite you when you're asked to be a part of them?
Yeah, so I think these days, I think that something that I am personally quite interested in is creating work that is kind of more accessible to people and site specific. So earlier this year, I did a show with Java Dance Theatre for Arts in Your Neighborhood. It's called Back of the Bus, and we were literally, we took the audience on a bus right through Bukit Panjang, and it was really, I think it was really special. I think one of the things that stood out for me was, or really moved me, was that we were able to kind of connect with people that wouldn't usually come to see contemporary dance. So even not even just during the performances, but even during our rehearsals when we were, I had to rehearse at the hawker center. And yeah, and I just, had an audience there already, and people started to, they started to become quite invested in the work as well. And we had this uncle who came up to speak to us on one of the days of the performances, and said that, oh, he was going to invite 5 of his friends to come and see us, and he's been waiting around for us every day. Yeah, so I think like it's those things that really move and touch me, and I think that I would really love to be moving in that sort of direction even more. Yeah.
So in making this transition to an independent artist, has there been anything new that you discovered about yourself which you hadn't considered before?
I think one thing would be, maybe that I never thought I would be making solo work. I never thought I would be making work on myself.
Right.
So before leaving the company, I think most of the work, or I think all of the work that I've done was made on other people. And yeah, I think I've always felt that I needed to have a bit of that separation and distance with the work when I create something. And because I think what I create has, I think I'm someone who's quite concerned with the visuals of the work as well. So I love to be, on the outside of it. And to be inside would be too complicated. But I think, so I think what's really surprised me is that that actually since leaving the company, I've been making solo work, and actually I've found a lot of pleasure in doing so, from just working with and from my own body. And yeah, I think to also just I think it also, like making solo work, I think I'm forced to question myself a lot more, and what I want to say through the work. It's not I'm doing all the thinking by myself, or at least I'm making all the final decisions, both from the side of the performer and the choreographer. Yeah, so I think that's been quite a surprise to me.
That's so wonderful to hear. And I think on the topic of exciting things, I'd like to close the program by asking you about your plans for the near future. Is there anything exciting in the works, or something that you hope will land on the page?
Yeah, so something I already mentioned was a dance film that I'm doing for, so her name's Madeline, and she is a music composer that just returned from New York. And so she conceived this this short film that it's going to be released on the 10th of September, which coincides with World Suicide Awareness Day. So that's something to, if you want to look out for, that will be on social media platforms. And some other things that I'll be looking forward to would be a work that I am doing, a continuation, actually, a development of a work that I've been doing for Guaki and Bernice Lee. So this work deals with the idea of tactility and touch. So there will be, hopefully, I think, both a digital performance as well as a live physical performance sometime in the coming months. And with what I spoke about earlier with Spontaneous Space Jam, so the three of us, me, Shaun, and Ashley. So Ashley is she's gone back to the Netherlands because she's still continuing her studies there. But the three of us hope to be able to produce a show over Zoom as well in the coming months, and to continue our explorations that we've started over the circuit breaker period. Yeah, and Oh, and lastly, I think in November, I'll be also hopefully performing a work that is conceived by Ang Hui Bin and Melissa Quek. And yeah, so the title of the work is, plastic, and so it deals with our relationship to plastic. And I know that ArtScience Museum at the moment is doing an exhibition on plastic. Yeah, so so that's something to look out for. Yeah, so I have there's something that I was planning to do some in May this year with a friend and musician, Sasha Pellegrini, and we were hoping to do a site-specific work in the park, and so we've had to postpone that work, inadvertently. So we're not sure when we're going to do it, but I think with that work, we've talked. It's really hard for that work to be translated to the digital platform because so that's but something hopefully we'll be able to do this year or next year. Yeah,
there's so much goodness to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm thankful.
Just one last question, Adele. When we do come out on the other side of the circuit breaker, I'm wondering what's the very first thing or activity you want to do?
Oh, I think it's just simply to be able to take a walk without my mask. And obviously, to be able to return to the theater, to be able to return to the cinema, to watch film. I think those are two experiences that I really, truly miss a lot. So for this work, plastic, we've actually started to do some of our rehearsals live in person at the theater already, and it's been quite surreal to be to be doing it there. And hopefully, soon enough, we'll be able to return to the theater with actual audiences as well.
I mean, Adele, thank you so much for sculpting this beautiful work to share with all of us and making time to take part in what has been such a lovely conversation tonight as well. It's completely wonderful bringing you into the fold of our programming. And it's so lovely to hear all the goodness of what's coming up, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks, Sin.
And to all of you who have been with us at ArtScience Late at Home, thank you so much as well. We loved having you join us, and we appreciated all the comments and the questions that have come our way throughout the session. For our program next month on the 17th of September, we're presenting a performance project by playwright and theatre artist David Finnega. It's called You're Safe Till 2024, and it's a story about the massive changes taking place on our planet and humanity from the deep past to the present day. And David's performance piece is part of the opening program for our new exhibition that we were talking about called Planet of Plastic. And this will be opening to the public on the 12th of September. So please join us for David's performance on the 17th of September, 9 p.m. if you can. And really, apart from Adele's and David's performances for ArtScience Late at Home, do look out for more programs, from virtual tours to talks, on ArtScience Museum's website and YouTube channel. Please continue to stay safe and keep well, and we hope to see you at our next program. Thank you so much again, Adele. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.